So again, there is the Erie County border with Wyoming County. There's Genesee County. There's Route 20 right there. So it's just near and south of Route 20, about to cross into very far parts of northwest Wyoming, southwest parts of Genesee County. So we're going to send it over to First Alert meteorologist Stacy Pengen to continue the coverage for us here on News 10 NBC. Stacy, what do you?
I'm going to jump on here with you. And as you mentioned, this storm has had a history of producing a confirmed tornado. It was very, very well defined just within the last, maybe hour and a half. So let's take another look at First Alert Doppler radar, show you exactly what we are talking about. And we're still talking about Max 1 if we can, taking First Alert Doppler radar again. And we are focusing in on that one tornado warned storm. And actually want to change this over to velocity, which is what Rich was just talking about as well. And this is one of the ways that we can determine whether or not there is actual rotation within the thunderstorm. And at the moment, I'm not seeing super tight rotation like we were earlier, but some of these storms have a history of sort of beefing up and then fizzling out a little bit, and then that rotation tightens up once again. I'm going to switch this over to a different type of velocity, see if we're noticing anything else here. But again, this was a confirmed tornado as it was south of Buffalo. And right now, this is just in the eastern part of Erie County. Again, not seeing super tight rotation within this, but it is a tornado warned storm. Might be starting to see some tighter rotation just north of Route 20 there. Let's switch it back over to radar here. Again, tornado warning, and this is up until 1:45. And notice how this is for a storm that is now getting ready to enter into Genesee County. The actual thunderstorm itself is in Genesee County, but you can see that little hook that Rich was also talking about near Alden. That may be where the storm is trying to tighten up just a little more. So this particular storm is moving at it's moving to the northeast at about 40 miles an hour. So putting a track on this once again, and I'm putting a track on the part of the storm that would be most likely to have a tornado if there was still a confirmed tornado within this. And this puts it into Darien around 133, Alexander 140, Batavia closer to 150, Stafford 156. We're looking at Leroy around 202, Clarendon 209, Riga 213 if this thing holds together, which it has been doing. These storms have had a pretty high success rate of holding together. Brockport 218, Clarkson 220, and Chili. So then getting into Monroe County, Western Monroe County, closer to 223. So let's clear this off. Take another look at radar itself and where the warning is. That warning actually just updated, or maybe that was the severe thunderstorm warning that updated. There's also a severe thunderstorm warning, by the way, just west of that tornado warning, and that is up until 2 o'clock. That's for the Buffalo area itself. But we are focusing in on this cell right here, which is south of Alden. That's where we've been seeing some of that rotation. Let's switch over to velocity again and see if we're seeing that rotation starting to tighten up a little bit, just a little bit. Nothing overly impressive, but again, this has produced a confirmed tornado, which is why we are paying very close attention to this, moving towards Bennington right now. And again, I'm going to put another storm track on this for you. Kind of looks like it's moving almost in an east-northeasterly direction. So that may change the track just a little bit. Attica, 140-ish, Alexander, 141. Pavilion 158, Leroy 203, and York 208. Again, if there is a tornado within this thunderstorm, it's moving at about 40 miles an hour. So that is where it would be according to the speed there. So let's clear this off, give you another wider look at what's going on, because it's not just this one tornado warning. We are starting to pop some thunderstorms really across the majority of Western New York right now. Finger Lakes are quiet. You're looking out your window and saying, but it's sunny. That's not necessarily a good thing. We are building more instability in the atmosphere. There's already a lot of inherent spin in the atmosphere from the remnants of that tropical system. So you have spin, you have some thunderstorms, and you add more fuel to it. So that is why we are under this red alert for the rest of this evening. And there are some additional tornadoes well east of us. Hamilton, a tornado warning there as well. So we're also watching some of the storms off to the south of us for some further development. And again, if these continue to strengthen and they continue to rotate, then we may start to see some more warnings, tornado warnings popping. At this point, this is the only tornado warned storm that we are monitoring. And again, this is just south of Pembroke. And the part of the storm that was tornado warned, probably south of Alden. Put another velocity on this right now and sort of inspect the storm, see if we can see anything. And it would probably be this area right here where we've been seeing some of that rotation. We actually just popped another warning. So you can see, let me put it back over to radar there, reflectivity. And now this is a severe thunderstorm warning that is posted for the northern Livingston County, and this is heading into southern Monroe County. This is not tornado warned at the moment. Of course, with the spin in the atmosphere, we are continuing to monitor the threat for any of these rotating thunderstorms, and we are fair game to see a few more of these rotating thunderstorms possibly producing some tornado warnings. So I'm going to hand it back over to Rich, if we can, for a minute here. I'm going to check a few things on the computer and see if we have any more confirmations as to what's going on and whether or not that severe thunderstorm warning that was just popped from Monroe County is in fact seeing any rotation within that storm. So Rich, I'm going to hand it back over to you for a minute.
Great. Thanks a lot, Stacy. Again, let's bring up the radar. We'll go over those two warnings real quick with our red alert in effect. Again, that tornado warning until 1:45 over southern Genesee, northern Wyoming County. And we just got that brand new severe thunderstorm warning. That's that storm we've been talking about moving over the Caledonia and Avon area, about to cross into southern areas of Monroe County. Right now, it's just south of the thruway. You can see a lot of lightning starting to show up in that storm over near Avon. Some torrential rain also in those storms. So that is moving generally off to the northeast. So stand by into Henrietta. Areas out near Scottsville, Henrietta, Brighton, those areas will be in line. So with our storm tracker in place, the timing of it into Scottsville, 1:35, into Rush, 1:38, Henrietta, 1:44, Brighton, 1:50, Rochester at 1:50, Penfield 1:55, Webster at 2:02. Plan on a severe storm. That could mean some damaging wind gusts, 50, 60 miles an hour, torrential rains. And also, we got to be alert with the way the atmosphere is set up. If there's any rotation, there always is that chance for an isolated tornado. So again, that's one storm we'll be monitoring very closely. Let's go back to that tornado warned storm again. We've been watching that little hook. They call it a little hook echo, and you can see it on the radar, that little twist at the bottom of that severe storm. So it'll be right in this area between Bennington and Pembroke. So that's right near Route 20 over western, southwestern areas of Genesee County. If there is a tornado in this system, it would be right in that vicinity. So that's the part of that storm that would be warned for that tornado. When we track that off to the east-northeast, it'll be into the area of Darien at 1:33. And if it holds together, we'll be nearer just south of Batavia by 1:47. So again, Pavilion, Batavia, out towards Stafford, those areas need to be alert for that potential of a tornado. That's that warned storm right now through 1:45 over parts of southern Genesee and northernmost Wyoming County. Though it looks like from the radar, you guys in Wyoming County do not appear to be under the threat of that tornado. It's just across the border, again, up in the southern portions of Genesee County. So again, we're keeping an eye on that. Also, we got that severe thunderstorm warning, which is now just crossing into Monroe County. Also some heavier weather over the western part of the county. Storms are building out towards Riga, and those could then expand in coverage coming down 490 towards Chile. So we're going to send it back over to First Alert Meteorology Stacy Pengen with some updates on that tornado warning. Stacy?
Yeah, and Rich, I was actually just inspecting that severe thunderstorm warning that's moving into the southern parts of Monroe County, and there is a little bit of broad rotation. And the way the Weather Service tags these, if we can switch over to radar, tag them with hail or damaging winds of 60 miles an hour. Sometimes if they are detecting rotation as well, they will say tornado possible. And this is a tornado possible tagged severe thunderstorm. Now, what we're going to watch for is some of that rotation tightening up a little more. It's very broad rotation and it's not overly pronounced. But right now, I'm actually going to switch over to a different velocity here. And what we're looking at is right here. You can see a little bit of those reds and greens sort of mashing together. Again, I'm not seeing tight rotation. It is relatively broad rotation right now, but it is something that we will certainly be monitoring, the intensity of this rotation. And what we're looking for is this area right here to tighten up. That would be indicative of a tornado and a tornado warned storm. Again, for now, this is simply a severe thunderstorm warning, but that doesn't mean don't take it seriously. It absolutely does, because a lot of times some of our severe warned storms with straight line winds locally can produce just as much or if not more damage than those tornado warned storms. So I want to put a track on this particular cell, let you know where that is headed, and change the timing on this. So this particular cell is moving generally off to the north and east at about 40 miles an hour. And that puts it into Rush at 134, Henrietta 141, Rochester 149, Penfield 153, Webster 202, and Ontario at 209. Again, for the time being, this is a severe thunderstorm warning that is just off to the north of Avon, Wheatland, Rush. You are in it next. Henrietta next on the doorstep for you, and Chili as well. Gusty winds, could be dealing with some 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts. And of course, torrential downpours. That has been one of the main factors we've really been focusing on over the last few days with this particular system. So very heavy rain within any of these severe warned storms. And then taking another look at this tornado warning that is still up for this particular cell. And I would say the area we need to keep watching is headed toward Darien. I'm going to put the velocity on once again and see if we're seeing any sort of rotation within this storm. And again, it's very broad rotation. I'm not seeing great signatures, although right there just north of Bennington might be seeing some tighter rotation, which again would be more indicative of a tornado. And one other thing we can look at is, it's called the correlation coefficient, getting a little nerdy here, but this is what we use to actually see if there's confirmation of a tornado on the ground. So what this would actually be measuring is whether or not we're seeing debris lofted into the air, and I'm not seeing anything crazy at this point. Also need to keep an eye on this storm that is moving just north of Avon. Again, some tight rotation within that particular storm. That is a severe thunderstorm warning, but it is one of those that has a tornado possible tag. So we are seeing some rotation within this thunderstorm. So our red alert continues this afternoon through this evening. We are the entire area is under a tornado watch, which means the conditions are primed. We're ready to go for some of these supercell thunderstorms, some of these rotating thunderstorms that could potentially be popping a tornado warning. So again, right now, what we're focusing in on is two areas here. One, a tornado warning that is near Attica at this point. That particular storm looks like it has been kind of weakening and losing some of that really tight rotation, but that storm has produced a confirmed tornado, and that was just south of Buffalo. The other area we are focusing in on would be a tornado warning, a severe thunderstorm warning right now, and that is south of Rochester, over Scottsville right now. Rush, very heavy rain. You're likely seeing some potentially damaging wind gusts. I would say 50 to 60 miles an hour. And again, I'm going to keep switching over to this velocity because this is really how we can see if these severe thunderstorms, and I'm seeing some pretty good rotation in this particular storm here. So Scottsville, I would say heads up. I would say head into the basement and away from windows. This is not a tornado warned storm yet, but I'm seeing some pretty tight rotation within that particular storm. So severe warned thunderstorm with tight rotation, and this is south of Scottsville. This is just south of the thruway there, and I'm going to put another track on this particular part of the storm And again, it should be moving at about 40-ish miles an hour. Just checking here. Yep, about 40 miles an hour. There we go. And that's not even with the same cell, but I'm still going to track this one because I am a little concerned about this particular cell. This is putting it into Scottsville, which I just mentioned, 138, Henrietta 148, Rochester 154. Again, if this holds together, and quite honestly, a lot of these have been holding together pretty successfully. East Rochester 158, Penfield 2 o'clock, and Webster 208. So let's zoom out here and check out this tornado warned storm. And again, you're seeing some more rotation. This is for a storm that is just getting ready to enter into southern parts of Livingston County. So let's switch it over to radar and reflectivity, see what we're looking at within the storm itself. We'll clear this, go down into the Dansville area, and you're starting to see a little bit of a hook there. So again, this is another one of those storms that is now tornado warned. Starting to see that classic signature with that little hook, the hook echo, and that tends to sort of show you where some of the rotation is starting to be seen. So let's switch it back over to velocity. I want to Genesee, oh yeah, getting some more rotation within this one as well. Thanks, Rich. Yeah, so Darien, possible tornado. This is still that tornado warned storm. And what some of these storms are doing is they're weakening and then they'll build up once again. So you see the rotation loosen up and then they'll tighten up once again. And it's exactly what we're seeing here in Darien. And that is that tornado warned storm that looks like it's tightening up once again. So I'm going to put a track on this one. This is a heads up tornado warned storm in southern Genesee County, specifically Darien. And I'm going to put a track on this, again, moving generally off to the north and east. So the path of this puts it into Darien at 138, Batavia 154, Stafford 2 o'clock, Leroy 207. And then beyond that, this may continue on into parts of Monroe County. Speaking of Monroe County, I want to take another look at this particular cell. And I am, to be honest, very surprised that this is not a tornado warned storm, at least based on what we're seeing here on radar. It is a severe thunderstorm warning just south of Scottsville right now. You can zoom in even more to street level and see where this storm is right now. Bowerman Road, Diana Drive, Browns Avenue. You're going to want to probably take shelter. Again, this is a severe thunderstorm warning with a tornado possible tag, which means that there is some rotation detected within the storm. And we are absolutely seeing that rotation right now. And then again, another tornado warned storm that we are seeing entering Livingston County has some broad rotation for the time being. But again, this is a tornado warned storm, and I would not at all be surprised if this rotation started to tighten up a little bit more. So really 3 areas we are watching right now, 2 tornado warnings. We have this one that is near Scottsville. We have this one that is just south of Dansville, and this one that is near Darien right now. All of these showing some pretty decent rotation. So I'm going to switch it over really quickly here to correlation coefficient, which again, to you at home probably doesn't mean a whole lot, but for us, it helps us to see whether or not we might be seeing debris lofted into the air. So I'm just going to loop this and see if anything is showing up. Might be seeing something there in southern parts of extreme southern Livingston County. It's hard to tell that far out. I want to move a little bit further north, and I'm not seeing anything wild here in this particular storm, but yeah, near Wheatland, Rush, what road is that right there? East River Road, 251, just south of Scottsville. Let us know, by the way, if you can email us or get in touch with us on social media. Let us know if you are in fact seeing some of these tornadoes, well, tornado warned thunderstorms, because a lot of times we have the best tools, but sometimes you are our best tools to actually help us see with eyes on the ground.
You know, it's pretty remarkable, Stacy. I've been working here almost 25 years, and to have 3 radar signatures that are indicating potential tornadoes on the ground, 3 at the same time, I've never seen anything like that here working in the Rochester region. And again, very surprised that this does not have a warning. When you looked at the signature on the radar, there it is, very heavy weather just crossing the thruway, making its way up towards Henrietta. Severe thunderstorm warning for that storm, but some of the radar does indicate the potential is there for tornado. And of course, we were talking about the one entering southernmost Livingston County. There is a tornado warning on that storm down towards areas near and just south of Dansville. And then when you look at the radar signature of that storm out near Darien, near Route 20, that is a very good signature on that storm as well, with that tornado warning in parts of Genesee County. So just an amazing weather setup right now. There it is. And again, you talk about that little hook out there again over southern parts of Genesee County, maybe just near and north of 20. Darien headed towards Alexander, just on the north side of Route 20. And there's the warning for the storm in Dansville. You see on those velocity things map, you can see there it is, the red next to the green right there. So that we've seen a little tightening on that storm, which is over southernmost parts of Livingston County. There is the Dansville area. There's 390. So again, just on the county border there between Steuben and Allegheny and into Livingston County. That is the radar. So whenever you hear the term radar indicated tornado, this is what they see. So that is what is being indicated from the radar right there. You see the dark reds very close to the lighter greens. That's indicating winds traveling very fast away from the radar and towards the radar. And that's indicating where there could be that tornado there in southern Livingston County. Again, looking towards, let's go north a little bit, and we can check in on that one. There's that signature as well over parts of Genesee County. Again, there it is. The reds very close to the light greens. Again, that's just north of Route 20, right between Darien and Alexander. And then real quickly, if we go over to the one in southern parts of Monroe County, that was the one that had a real good signature not too long ago. It looks like it's kind of not as pronounced right now as it was just a little bit ago, but there's certainly some rotation in this storm. This is not a tornado-warned storm, but again, it looked pretty ominous about 5-10 minutes ago. Not quite as bad now, but this one looks to be tightening up a little bit more as it heads towards the Dansville area. So again, that is certainly an area to be concerned about. So we're still monitoring several areas of severe weather and 2 tornado warnings currently underway at this time. Stacey?
Yeah, and Rich, we have crews on the way to that tornado warned storm in southern Livingston County, the Dansville area. And we're also sending a crew to the particular cell in Monroe County, severe thunderstorm warning for this one right now. That rotation has loosened up a little bit. This never was a tornado warned storm, but based on the velocity signatures with this one, thinking that there could be some pretty tight rotation. So we are sending crews out to those areas there. And actually, we now have a brand new tornado warning that was just issued. You saw it pop up there. I'm going to freeze this, bring you into that particular cell. And it's really just an extension of the storm we have been talking about in western Genesee County. They are now extending that tornado warning into Batavia. First Alert meteorologist Alex Bielfeld has also been monitoring that particular storm. And he was saying the rotation has been tightening up once again on that storm. So that is headed into, well, most of Genesee County. And right now, that tornado warning extends technically into southern parts, southwestern Monroe County, and also southern parts of Monroe County. So I want to put a track on this again, let you know where this is headed. And again, it is generally moving at about 40 miles an hour there, and that puts it into Batavia at 158, Byron 210, Bergen 218, Riga 221, Brockport 227, Clarkson 229, Chili 232. So this gives you a little bit of a heads up. This is headed in your general direction, whether this is a tornado warned storm or a severe thunderstorm warning with straight line winds. There is a decent chance that you could see some damage, whether it's from a swirling thunderstorm or straight line winds. You're going to want to take cover if you are in any of these towns. Obviously, you have a little more time if you are in Clarkson and Chili, but if you're on the west side, Batavia, Byron, even into Bergen, you want to start taking some action, as some of these thunderstorms really have been holding together quite nicely. Switching this over to velocity once again, you are sort of deciphering these storms with us as we are doing it on the air here. And you can see that, as Alex was mentioning, some of that rotation looks like it was tightening up once again. And that is just between Darien and Alexander, just north of Route 20 there. So
I
not
don't mean to interrupt. But,
sure.
The warning indicates that the tornado is still observed. So that's an indication that this tornado is more than likely still on the ground.
All right, so we have different levels of these tornado warnings, radar indicated versus observed. This has been an observed one, and it is still an observed tornado warning, meaning there likely is still a tornado that is coming out of this thunderstorm near Darien. So again, going to put another track on this, and let me just make sure the speed of the storm hasn't changed at this point. Let's see here. It is moving at about 40 still. All right, so putting a track on this, again, puts it into Batavia, 159, Byron, 212, Bergen, 219, and Riga, 223. But I actually want to get a little bit closer, see if we can get to some of these roads here. So this is going to be crossing 98, Route 98 there in probably 5 or 10 minutes, headed toward Batavia. So heads up, you're going to want to take shelter there. It is north of Alexander. I want to keep inspecting some of these thunderstorms, the severe thunderstorm warning in Monroe County, because again, this one was showing some pretty good. I'm seeing another little velocity signature there just north of Rush. So again, this is not a tornado warned storm, but this is a severe thunderstorm warning, meaning there has been rotation that's been detected within this strong thunderstorm. So a tornado tag there. Let me switch back over to reflectivity. There's a lot going on here. We have 2 active tornado warnings in our viewing area. We have this one that is just southwest of Batavia, moving northeast. And then we have this other one that is in Dansville, basically at this point. So let's turn on the velocity for this Dansville one and see what we're looking at as far as if this is tightening up with the rotation. So yeah, looking at a pretty good velocity signature here. And this would be Stoner Hill Road right along 390. So this could potentially be a tornado coming from this storm, crossing over 390 right now, just north of North Dansville. Again, Stoner Hill Road, right along 390 there. And this would be heading towards Springwater, maybe passing just south of Springwater Road, Liberty Pole Road there. Again, heading towards Springwater. I'll put a track on this, and it looks like they just updated this particular storm. I want to see what they updated it with. Rich, if you can take it for just a second here.
Sure. Again, as Stacy gets the latest on that information, again, just to let you know what we're looking at here. When we show the velocity, you know, the radar, it shows precipitation falling, but it also shows a wind going towards the radar and away from the radar. So whenever you see the different directions very close together, that indicates strong winds blowing away and towards the radar in a short distance. So that is typically what you see around a tornado. And you can see those different colors, the reds right next to the greens right there. So that indicates that there's winds going in opposite directions very close together. And that's 390 just between Groveland and Dansville. So there is some definite rotation in that storm. And there is the possibility that there could be a tornado on the ground. No confirmed observation from this tornado warning in Livingston County versus the one that is in Genesee County. There has been confirmation, observation of a tornado on the ground. It doesn't look quite as strong right now as it did just a few minutes ago, but generally it's making its way towards 98, just north of Alexander, south of Batavia. So kind of halfway between Batavia and Alexander, headed towards Route 98. That's where that general area of circulation is. That's where there is that potential of a tornado on the ground that has been observed at times. And this storm, I got to tell you, it's been producing potential tornadoes since near the Dunkirk area. So this has been quite the storm rolling through western New York. And right now we continue to track it. There's an active tornado warning in effect for parts of Genesee County. Again, for just south of Batavia, just north of Alexander, there's the center of the storm about to cross across 98. So it'll be in the south sections of Batavia, 159. If it holds together, then it goes off towards Stafford at 206, and then it goes into the northeastern Genesee County up towards Byron and Bergen, 212, 220, and then it could enter in parts of western Monroe County after that. So we will continue to be tracking these storms as they continue to move across the region. So Stacey, you got any new information on that storm?
Yep. So a few things here. I've been checking on some of these tornado warned storms. And as you mentioned, there has not been an observed tornado in that tornado warning in southern Livingston County near Dansville. That has not been an observed tornado. This is one of those tornado warnings that has been radar observed. But as Rich mentioned, the one near Batavia, north of Attica, heading toward Batavia, that has been an observed tornado. And as Rich was mentioning, for the last few hours, so holding together quite nicely. We're going to keep tracking this on air live for you until these warnings are gone. But for now, we're going to send it to First Alert meteorologist Glenn Johnson. He is in our storm down 390, where some of the most intense weather has been. Glenn, what are you seeing and where are you right now?
Yeah, Stacey, I got to tell you that the rain has been coming down so heavy I could hardly hear you on my earpiece here as we're driving down 390. Let me switch over and show you. This is 390 South. We just passed the Erie Canal. We're now heading down towards Jefferson Road, and the rain, it was coming down so heavy that we were getting ponding on area roadways. The actual speeds on 390 are down to 35, maybe 40 miles per hour. So far, it's been rain, and it's been heavy torrential rain, but we've gotten a couple of flashes of lightning, a little bit of thunder from time to time. It looks like most folks are observing and heeding the poor visibility because the speeds, as I mentioned, have come down significantly. So we're in that one cell that is now coming in through southern portions of Monroe County, and we're going to keep driving south here to see what else we can locate as some of this weather continues to deteriorate as we go through the remainder of the afternoon. Again, this is Glenn Johnson. I'm on the First Alert Storm Patrol. We'll come back to you as soon as we can, as soon as we get more changes. I want to flip right back again. The rain has picked up again, and it is extremely heavy. This is the kind of rainfall that you typically see in Florida or in any of the southern states. And the drainage cannot handle this amount of rainfall. So this is where we're going to see some of that localized ponding and localized poor drainage flooding. Looks like we're starting to come out now. So again, I'll throw it back to you, Stacey. This is Glenn in the First Alert Storm Patrol.
Yeah, and if you were looking at Glenn's camera there, when he was facing forward, you could see the heavy rain, but you also saw some sun off in the distance, which is not necessarily a good thing. It literally is adding fuel to these thunderstorms. We already have the rotation in the atmosphere. It's called shear. So any of these storms, once they get going, they have a tendency to start rotating. And as Rich mentioned just a minute ago, this particular tornado warned storm that we are continuing to track, if we can actually switch it over to max 1, if possible. Yes, thank you. This particular severe tornado warned storm has been producing a tornado, at the very least off and on, observed since south of Buffalo, well south of Buffalo near Erie. So this is one that definitely needs to continue to be monitored for the potential of this continuing to support strong enough rotation. So we're going back to velocity right now. And what I'm seeing is the storm weakening, which you could actually see on reflectivity as well. But this is also the same storm that weakened and then tightened up that rotation once again. So I would say right now, that rotation that we need to watch is weaker, just northeast of Alexander in this particular area right there. So for the time being, this storm seems to have cycled down, but I anticipate that it will probably cycle back up once again. Going to keep checking out some of these velocity signatures. In this particular area, in just south of Parenton, this is still a severe thunderstorm warning. This is not a tornado warned storm, but this is a storm where we have been seeing some of that rotation within the system there. So I want to actually zoom in to reflectivity once again and show you where the heaviest part of that particular storm is. and it is over 590 right now. You're obviously seeing some lightning flashes popping up once again. Very heavy rain on Edgewood, Winton, so you're looking at the Brighton area there. Again, 590 just south of it. Probably going to start to see some ponding on roads, and that's another thing with these storms. It's not just about the damaging wind or the rotation within these thunderstorms. They are producing torrential rain, and we are likely not going to be able to handle the volume of water that's coming from some of these thunderstorms for a huge amount of time. Again, so we have 2 tornado warned storms right now. We have one that is near the Dansville area that has been a radar observed tornado. So this is not a tornado that has been confirmed or observed by anybody yet, but it certainly has been showing some off and on rotation, and that is a tornado warned storm. Also tracking another tornado warning. This is the one we've been watching for hours now, and this is in Genesee County. Again, this one has been weakening somewhat. We'll watch the trends to see if this one continues to strengthen, but we're just in this atmosphere right now where a lot of these storms, once they get going, want to start rotating, and that, of course, could mean some dangerous storms. I'm going to hand it over to Rich for a second here while I continue to monitor some different elements.
Yeah, you take a look at some of the new data coming in, and folks have been, if you're wondering, how did we get to this? It's the remnants of Beryl. What was that big hurricane down in the Gulf? And you got to think that huge circulation in the atmosphere, the tremendous amount of tropical moisture that storm has brought really out of the Gulf of Mexico, out of the deep south, that has been now transported here in the Western New York. That's why when we get the rain, it is literally just pouring buckets out there. It's a very tropical air mass. So yes, we're dealing with the severe weather in terms of these potential tornadoes with those tornado warnings, but also another big concern could be flash flooding due to the excessive nature of the rain. So when you look at the radar, we all know how typical normal radar looks, right? Those deep reds, that is that very, very heavy rain, probably an inch, couple of inches an hour rainfall rates between Webster and Penfield and Perrington right now, just on the east side of Rochester, East Rochester, out towards 590. So that area, traffic can already be snarled, and you put this kind of rain out there, so there could be some issues. Those low-lying areas, you can get issues too, say like in the Blossom Road area. And that's where, again, when we look at the velocity, and in case you're wondering, saying, what in the world am I looking at here? But remember the radar, you're typically seeing the precipitation rates. What this is showing is the motion in the atmosphere. So you got echoes that are going, the air's blowing towards the radar, and it's blowing away from the radar with the red. So you got the green and the red, that's indicating the direction. So when everything is the same color, everything's moving in the same direction. That means you got just plain old regular winds blowing through. When you show those two colors tight together, like is showing up, this is that one that has that tornado warning in southern parts of Livingston County. That indicates that wind directions are changing very close to each other. And that's when you can indicate that rotation, the spin, the tornado. That's a radar indicated tornado now, just east of Dansville, near the Springwater area. So as we track that off to the east northeast, areas to watch out in Springwater, maybe Canandaigua 236, Gorham 241, Hopewell 242. So this will be heading into Ontario County. Manchester 247, Clifton Springs 251, Geneva at 254. It holds together, might be making its way through the northern Finger Lakes again, with that potential for not only just severe weather, but also the rare occurrence here in the Rochester region of potential tornadoes. And we've had one confirmed, observed on the ground from this storm in Genesee County. But as Stacy was mentioning a few minutes ago, really, that storm has really weakened drastically. You can just see it's kind of falling apart. So that one looks like conditions are improving, but we're starting to see storms building to the east. So storms are picking up now. New thunderstorms are developing ahead of that dying storm. Now towards Leroy, and Riga, out towards, again, Caledonia, York, and Leicester. And this looks like a nasty storm blowing up just near and north of Geneseo, maybe out towards Leicester, just on the south side of Avon, near and west of 390 over northwestern parts of Livingston County. Very, very heavy rain. And once again, when you zoom on in, you start to see, that storm's trying to rotate as well. We were talking about all of this being part of the remnants of Hurricane Beryl. A lot of motion in the atmosphere coming together, and that's why we've had that talk about potential tornadoes. We've been talking about it for a couple of days leading up to our red alert this afternoon, and it's because of all those atmospheric conditions coming together that you get these explosively developing storms that take on that supercell. We call it a supercell because it's an individual thunderstorm, not a big line of storms. So when you get an individual massive thunderstorm to form, those tend to have the ability to start rotating more easily than, say, along a big line of storms, which is what typically moves through the Rochester region. We don't see a lot of days where we have this kind of supercell outbreak. And you can see those individual storms. There's that very heavy one on the east side. There's the one we just showed you firing up just north of Geneseo. Look at all the lightning now with those storms. So these are intensifying thunderstorms. When you see the lightning increasing, that means these storms are getting stronger. The cloud tops are getting higher. And the higher that those cloud tops can get, the more that rotation in the atmosphere can impact and start the whole thing spinning. And when you get the whole storm starting to spin, that's what can help to produce those tornadoes on the ground. In fact, the way to look at it, you slice through the atmosphere. Look at that. What a great way to depict this. This is showing the core, the heavy rain. That's the reds just drenching Perrington and Webster right now. And look how high in the atmosphere these storms go. The rain up to 40,000 feet. The cloud tops almost to 50,000 feet in the atmosphere from some of these storms. We saw one earlier over the east end of Lake Ontario. The cloud tops were over 60,000 feet. Very unusual for this part of the country. So again, we are tracking something. We don't see that often here in the Rochester region. So again, we're going to be keeping an eye on it. And there's that little, you see that little motion, that little, they call it a hook echo. Before we had all this real fancy technology in Doppler radars, used to call it the hook echo on the older radars. And that used to be indicating of or indicative of a potential tornado. So there's one there kind of right on I think it's Steuben County, Livingston County line between Wayland and Springwater. So just north of Wayland in the Springwater area, a very nasty storm right now. You're under that tornado warning, and there could possibly be a tornado in that area right now as it continues to lift off towards the east-northeast. Tracking it, we'll be into the Canandaigua area, 236. So that means it's going to pass by just south of Bristol, south side of Richmond down towards Bristol, maybe the north side of Naples, and then make its way off towards Canandaigua, 236, and then on to Gorham, Hopewell, and Seneca after that. So again, a lot going on out there right now. Stacy, you got something you want to add so I can catch my breath over here?
Absolutely. We're gonna send Alex over to talk about what you should actually be doing in a second here. But I want to take another inspection at some of these warnings, and I've actually been looking at different signatures here, and I'm still looking at this one severe thunderstorm warning. This is not a tornado warned storm, but this is the storm that is just south of Webster right now. And I've still been seeing some broad rotation within this one. By the way, let us know if you've been seeing any damage, because a lot of times we're not completely aware of everything that's going on. We have the best tools, but can't always determine where the damage is happening. So that really helps us to forecast where some of this damage will be headed. But right now, the severe thunderstorm warning is in effect for eastern parts of Monroe County. You can see the heart of the storm between Webster and Perrington, headed toward Ontario and Walworth. We do also have parts of Monroe County technically under a tornado warning, and it's from this system, from this particular cell that Rich was just talking about with that hook echo just south of Springwater, though I think Monroe County is safe from that particular cell. This cell right here, I've been noticing some tight rotation within this one as well, starting to see maybe a little bit of a hook signature well south of Avon. And I want to actually put on velocity for this one and see if we're seeing that tightening up at all. Just south of Avon. Yeah, still seeing some broad rotation. This is not tornado warned at this point, but it is a signature that we will certainly keep an eye on. Make sure that this is not tightening up. And if it does, this may become a tornado warned storm. And then that tornado warning that was in effect for Genesee County that was delivering or dropping a confirmed tornado for a few hours now has been allowed to expire. So we are no longer dealing with the tornado warning in Genesee County. Severe thunderstorm warning right now for this cell. And again, I mentioned there's been some broad rotation within this one. Penfield area heads up, and this particular cell is continuing to move off to the north and east. And then still a tornado warning for this cell, which is near Springwater. You're seeing some of those reds and greens, and this was actually just updated. So I'm going to check what the latest information on this particular cell is, but I'm going to send it over to First Alert meteorologist Alex Bielfeld, and you might be wondering, okay, so we have this severe weather. What's the best way to handle it? Alex?
Yeah, well, the best thing to do is to get inside as quick as you possibly can. That's for sure, especially if there's a warning for your area. But obviously, the key thing is to make sure you seek a sturdy shelter. Now, obviously, a lot of folks here, we don't have storm shelters. This isn't Oklahoma. This isn't Kansas. So what you want to do is an interior part of your home, like your closet or your bathroom area, away from windows, away from front doors as well. And obviously your basement. That's your first choice because that is underground. But if you don't have one, again, the closets, the bathroom, that's your best opportunity. And again, with these storms approaching, I hope everyone has, but make sure you charge your devices as well ahead of time. If you have some time, make sure if your phone's about to die or you think it's going to die, make sure you charge it as well. And you want to stay away from the windows. That's the key thing. And as I was talking about, inside the basement, and get covered if necessary. Now, if you're on the roadways, the worst thing you can do, especially within a tornado warned cell, is go under an underpass. Actually, the way that winds work is that if you're under an underpass with the type of storm like a tornado or some straight line winds as well, is that unfortunately that in circumstances that there has been stories, and with the way dynamics work, is that, well, you can get actually sucked out from underneath the overpass. Now, obviously, that's more or less in some strong tornadoes, but obviously, if you do see a tornado warned cell, you also don't want to be driving into the direction of that either. So now if we want to switch over to Max 1, I could take a little bit of give Stacy and Rich a bit of a break to dive into some of the severe warnings that are that are in effect across the area, especially those tornado warnings. You got some reflectivity as well. We could show that and get into velocity also. So if we want to switch back over to Max 1 right here. Okay, we're going to have to toss to Rich. Rich, I'm going to toss it over to you, and then we can come back to me, and then I'll give you guys a break. You guys have been talking for a good amount of time, that's for sure.
It's just, a day like today, it gets those meteorological juices. We're dealing with this kind of stuff, especially working my shift in the morning. You don't get a lot of opportunities to see a radar showing this. And again, we've been talking about that tornado warning. It's done. For you guys out in Genesee County, we just showed that expiring. We're tracking the active one with this storm, which has just moved through Springwater. It's near and just on the north side of Naples, up towards Richmond, Bristol. So maybe headed towards the southern end of Canandaigua Lake. And you can see this is a very healthy storm out there. And you get that little hook, we call it that hook echo. So it's right in this area where there is that potential tornado. Again, no confirmation on that, but that's an area that we're obviously watching. And of course, we have all these other tremendous storms starting to produce lightning and rain, and they have severe thunderstorm warnings with them. And we want to have Stacy take a look at that storm now in northern Livingston, about to head into southern parts of Monroe, and of course that other one about to exit Monroe County. So a couple of big storms we're still tracking closely right around Metro Rochester. And I guess that's a good point to make. Even if there's not a tornado warning, it doesn't mean these storms aren't capable of producing a tornado. So again, everyone has to be ready for just about anything out of these severe storms this afternoon. Stacey?
Right. And Rich, to your point, even if it's not tornado warned, even if they're not rotating, but our atmosphere today is very primed to do some rotating here. But even if it's, I don't want to say just, but a severe thunderstorm warning, we get damage from severe thunderstorm warnings from straight line winds. So I want to focus in on a few cells here in northeastern parts of Monroe County. These are severe thunderstorm warnings. This one just south of Webster, Very heavy rain and tons of lightning associated with this right along 250. This is getting ready to cross over the border into Wayne County, 104, 350 into Ontario. Get ready for some gusty winds, lots of lightning and torrential rain. And then again, the storm that Rich was just talking about, also severe warned, producing torrential rain. That is going to be one of the biggest issues within these storms. Technically not a criteria for issuing a severe thunderstorm warning. By the way, lightning isn't either. But if you are hearing lightning off in the distance and you're outside, you need to head indoors. Lightning is obviously very dangerous as well. And then there's plenty of lightning associated with these storms. So Avon and Lima, you are seeing the strongest part of this thunderstorm right now. This is a severe thunderstorm warning for northern Livingston, southern Monroe counties. And we are still tracking this tornado warning. And this is the same one that we were tracking through southern Livingston County. The Weather Service has just updated this warning to exclude parts of Dansville and southern Livingston County. That storm has passed. So you are no longer in any sort of danger other than the lightning that you're seeing overhead on 390 in southern Livingston County. The part of that tornado warned storm that we're still monitoring is crossing into Ontario County, again, just northeast of Springwater. And I'm going to put another radar velocity on this so it really helps us to find where the specific rotation is. And it looks like it is just off to the east of Springwater, crossing over into southern parts of Ontario County, Naples. Also, get ready. Looks like it'll cross just off to the north of you, but this is where we're seeing some of the tightest rotation. Would be West Lake Road, likely heading into West Hollow Road, County Road 36 as well. So this particular storm, again, this is still a tornado warned thunderstorm. And I want to switch back to reflectivity, put a track on this, show you where some of the heaviest rain is falling right now. Let me zoom in a little bit. I'm going to pause it. And yeah, still seeing a little bit of that hook echo type signature, and putting a track on this not that kind of track. Sorry, guys. Here we go. Put a track on this and brings it into the rest of Ontario County. Again, these are all moving at about the same speed, moving along pretty quickly, about 40 miles an hour. Canandaigua, 241 for you. Gorham, 245. Seneca, 251, Clifton Springs, 255, and then heading into the central Finger Lakes, Geneva, 259, Newark, 304. If these continue to hold together, which they honestly have been doing a really nice job of holding together, which isn't necessarily a great thing for us. So again, just another recap of what we're seeing here. We have several tornado warnings. One in our viewing area, and it's the one I just showed you in Ontario County. This is not an observed tornado, at least not at this point. A radar indicated tornado warning there. And then again, severe thunderstorm warning with some broad rotation within some of these cells near Parenton. And then Riga, you're just getting out of it. Honeoye Falls, heads up. But we're also monitoring a few more of these tornado warned storms into Steuben County. And we know that our weather moves generally from the southwest to the northeast. So we're going to keep track of these as they continue to head into the Finger Lakes. I'm going to hand it off we're going to go to Alex now. Alex, you're going to do a little bit of a tracking for us as well.
Yeah, take over for you guys. You guys have been talking a lot over the last hour and a half. But yeah, obviously you can see what we're tracking right now is just this numerous supercell thunderstorms that are in place. And again, if you're just joining us, we have numerous severe thunderstorm warnings as well as tornado warnings. That's why we're still on the air at this moment. Because of those tornado warnings, we're going to continue to stay on the air until these expire. And you can see we do have tornado warnings until 2:15 this afternoon. That's actually within the next 10 seconds. So we'll see if the National Weather Service does continue to extend those, if not let them expire. But you can see also too, again, the other storyline with this, again, this is the remnants of Beryl. So it's a lot of tropical moisture associated with this. So we're looking at some very heavy rainfall, and that heavy rainfall could also lead to some flooding, especially as we progress through the rest of the afternoon. So you can see that we do have a newly issued tornado warning. This is from Steuben County into Yates County, a little sliver there. That goes until 3 o'clock in the afternoon hours today. So that's within the next 45 minutes. So we're going to continue to track these. And obviously, Rich has been talking about, you can see all those little hooks that these storms are associated with. those are known as hook echoes. And that's a telltale sign that there is strong rotation. Now, whether there's a tornado on the ground or not, it's a different story. But those hook echoes really show that there is a lot of rotation within these thunderstorms. You can see that on the velocity maps here, right? So what you're looking at here, especially if you're just joining it, is colors, green and red. Red also is known as receding. So the radar is coming from Buffalo. So we're looking off towards the west, right? So that wind that the radar is picking up is moving in this direction, while green means going towards. That's the best way to remember that. And you can see that's going that way. So you get that, and you get that counterclockwise swirl. And that's that indication that we have rotation. Now, obviously, if we have a tornado on the ground or not, we need to see tighter rotation. But there's also some other parameters that allow us to see that. But you can see there is that tight rotation for that cell that's north and west of Naples. You can also see a little bit of rotation, or at least an attempt of rotation, in some of the cells up towards Honeoye Falls, making their way into Monroe County, right to the Avon area as well. It's a lot weaker, it's a lot broader, so that's why there's no tornado warning with this one. But even with that said, we could still get some very strong wind gusts that moving their way off towards the north and east, especially along the thruway, Henrietta eastward out towards Victor. If you have family and friends, or you know they're about to head out in that direction, give yourself a good half hour to let these storms pass by. Now you can see off towards the eastern end of Monroe County and into Wayne County out towards Webster right now. This is a bit of a mosh pit in terms of velocity, but again, red receding and then green going towards. So there's a little bit there, but I would say more or less this is straight line winds at this moment. Stacy, if we could we see what some of these speeds are picking up on as well in the velocity, see how strong some of these winds are. But you can see on first alert radar and satellite, here's where all these storms are. And then just off towards the west, right? A little bit less in terms of action out there. We'll see if things really quiet down afterwards, but it does look like there's a good amount of energy, thunderstorm energy, that should continue to keep these storms going at least into the early evening hours. Then things begin to settle down afterwards. So what we're looking at again is velocity. And you can see just these bright greens. That's just an indication that we still have some strong winds. So even if we're not seeing anything in terms of rotation out there. Now these velocities are coming in a little light, anywhere between 14 and 20 miles an hour at this moment, but it would not surprise me. Radar is indicated, or at least the severe thunderstorm warning is indicated and tagged with winds excess over 50 to 60 miles an hour possible within these storms. So we're moving back down south, just to the south of Richmond and just to the north of Naples. Again, this is the storm we're really watching out for. Stacy, is this one still indicated tornado warning? I don't see the red polygon.
I turned it off because when I queried
okay.
it was showing.
So this one is still a tornado warning again. Green. Did they drop it?
Oh, they just issued it
No,
again.
it's still there.
Okay.
It's extended now. That's going to include Canandaigua, Bloomfield, just to the east of Victor along the I-90 interstate. So let's track this as it moves its way off towards the north and east. Again, 240 in Canandaigua, Gorham at 2:45 this afternoon, Seneca at 2:51. Clifton Springs at 2:54. So the key thing here is if you are within that warning, and especially within that track as we track this couplet right there, make sure, again, you get inside interior part of your home, your closet, your bathroom. Basement is obviously your first location to look forward to. But if you don't have one, again, interior part of your home, your closet, or your bathroom, and then again, anywhere away from windows as well. You can also see a load of lightning with these thunderstorms also. It's just a lot of tropical moisture associated with these storms as they're moving their way through. And you can see even just knocking on the doorstep here in the city in Rochester, but Chili, Scottsville, Henrietta, Lima, dealing with a lot of rain and a lot of thunder and lightning at this moment. This is not a tornado warning, but this is a severe thunderstorm warning. And this is going until, Stacy, what time did that say? 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm pretty sure?
Let me put that back on again. Let's see. This is until,
2:30. So
Yeah.
This is until 2:30. So this is the next 10 minutes. This is, again, a severe thunderstorm warning, loads of lightning. Again, get inside, even if it isn't any rotation or any tornadoes on the ground. You got thunderstorms in the area. You make sure you want to go inside, that's for sure. But again, this is going to track its way off towards the north and east over the next half hour or so. And then again, just behind it, things are a little quieter, but we'll see if things continue to quiet down as well. But now we're going to send it to
me.
Stacy, let's send it back over to you to get some intel.
So what I want to show you, we've been talking about the severe thunderstorm warnings, obviously, but the other factor to this is the torrential rain. So I'm going to actually turn off the watches and warnings. They are still in effect. This is still a severe thunderstorm warning, but I want to show you just how heavy some of this rain is coming down. We're looking at rainfall rates of 2.5 inches per hour. And obviously we're not seeing these thunderstorms lasting over the same area for an hour, but maybe a good half hour, 45 minutes. So that is a quick 1.5 to 2 inches of rain. And then you get some of these storms that redevelop back behind these same areas. So again, flash flooding is also a potential issue, especially as we get deeper into the afternoon. We've been fairly dry, so we've been able to handle a lot of the water. But when you're talking about rainfall rates of this intensity, sometimes it doesn't matter how dry you are, the drainage systems have a really hard time handling the amount of water that is coming from the sky. So again, to recap, if you're just joining us, we have a tornado warning right now, and this is for this particular cell in southern parts of Yates County, and seeing a fairly well-pronounced hook associated with this. Lots of lightning. Ontario County, Ontario County there. That is just off to the east of Richmond. And this tornado warning is also up for extreme western parts of Yates County for that storm that is near Cohocton. But we're focusing in on this one. I want to show you velocity once again, and really show myself velocity to inspect the storm and see what kind of signatures we're seeing. And those are pretty impressive signatures right there. So again, this tornado warned storm is, so far, it has been radar observed, not a confirmed tornado yet. I'll check on that. But putting a track on it puts it into Gorham 241, Seneca 247, Geneva 255, and Phelps 256. So if you're in the path of this, it is a tornado warned storm. And just checking on the latest, it is still radar indicated, which means there has not been an observed tornado yet. So that, yeah, just getting ready to cross Canandaigua Lake, Rich was just mentioning. So obviously getting into a pretty populated area there.
North.
New tornado warning to the north.
So the north.
Yeah, that cell we were watching.
That cell. Wow, it didn't even, that's amazing how quickly it tightened up. It did not look that impressive 5-10 minutes ago, but look at that. You got the red receding, the green going towards. Here's your couplet right there, right along 104. Just to the west of Ontario at this moment. That's really impressive. Some real impressive stuff for this area.
So this is a brand new tornado warning for that cell that we were tracking over Webster. My husband in Fairport actually said just a few minutes ago that he was hearing a siren. So that is probably indicative of some damage that has been happening, maybe some power lines down with that particular cell. So again, this is a brand new tornado warning. And this is for extreme western Monroe County, though most of this cell is exiting to the east of Monroe County, but we're really focusing in on Wayne County right now, right along Route 104, Ontario, Williamson. Also, I'm going to turn this off for just a second. It is still a tornado warned storm, but I want to look at some of the power outages confirmed in Geneseo, just hearing that from our producer, from our executive producer there. Looking at some of the wind velocities, pushing almost 40 miles an hour there. Same deal. So 30 miles an hour. This is a tornado warned storm right now. So what we'll be watching is for some of this rotation to be really tightening up. And as Alex mentioned, it did tighten up pretty quickly, which is what you're seeing there. I'm going to turn the warnings back on so you can see that, yes, we are in fact still under a tornado warning. And this is for western Wayne County right now. That is the newest tornado warning out there. And still have that tornado warning that is up for this cell getting ready to cross over Canandaigua Lake. You can see that pronounced hook. That one is also a radar indicated tornado. In fact, I want to check and see if this newest tornado warning for Monroe County is observed or whether it is radar indicated. It is radar indicated. Yep. In Wayne County, it is a radar indicated. So all of the tornado warnings we have right now have been radar indicated. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't take these seriously. It just means that we haven't seen a tornado observed from these yet. But as our producer, Mackenzie, was just telling us, we do, in fact, have some power outages that are now starting to come in across the area. So tornado warning right now for this particular cell, heads up, Ontario, just north of Walworth. It is getting ready to exit Webster. And I actually want to take you in a little closer here. North Lincoln Road, Ridge Road. If you are on Lakeside Road, Knickerbocker, Furnace, and we just had the radar update there. So you can actually see the radar updating as we go. Bottom line, from Walworth to Ontario to Williamson to Sodus and Marion, you want to start to get to your safe spot. This is a tornado warned storm right now. It is radar indicated at this point. We have not heard of an observed tornado, but we are starting to see some power outages coming in across the area. We are going to send it over to First Alert meteorologist Glenn Johnson. He has been in the storm patrol. He is on the thruway right now, right, Glenn? You're headed east, kind of towards that storm we were just tracking.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we've been trying to do all day. These storms are moving at a pretty good clip, as you've been mentioning, upwards of 40, 45 miles per hour. Where we're located right now, heading east, and we're going to get off at this exit here at Manchester. This is exit 43 on the New York State Thruway. We are in the warned area, so we are watching that cell that is located just to the south of us now, and we're going to see if we can intercept some of the effects of this particular storm as it comes in. It is located right around Canandaigua, just south of there, between Canandaigua and Richmond, and it looks like it's drifting, well, more than drifting. It's rolling along at about 40 miles per hour, heading up towards Newark. So we're right on the thruway, right, I hate to say it, right in the path, but we'll be smart about this. Obviously, if we see any real threatening weather, we'll get into a strong structure to be able to make sure that we don't put our own safety in jeopardy. But we'll see if we can see what happens with this particular storm. And obviously, a lot of these storms are radar indicated, so we haven't gotten a lot of storms that are actually observed. So what it comes down to, are we going to be able to observe one of these tornadoes here as it comes through the village of Manchester? As you folks have been saying all day long, it's we want to alert you, but not alarm you. So we want you to heed the warnings. You want to get into a safe structure. You want to get into an interior room. You want to get away from the windows. If you have a basement, that's always a good idea. And even if you don't get a tornado, strong straight line winds can also be a big problem. So we'll see how this kind of plays out. We'll bring you the very latest. Again, this is Glenn Johnson of the First Alert Storm Patrol.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. Just looking over some of the velocity signatures, which is basically measuring the wind and how strong the wind is and whether or not we're seeing some rotation. And we are, in fact, continuing to see some rotation in these tornado-warned storms. 3, actually, if we can go back to max 1, I'll show you where we currently are as this is loading in. But we have really a plethora of tornado warnings right now. I'm going to stop this, inspect each warning here. And right over Ontario, again, this is a radar-indicated tornado warning. Radar is picking up on strong enough rotation to trigger that tornado warning. It does not mean we have seen an observed tornado yet, but it does mean you need to, if you are in Ontario, Williamson, Walworth, Marion, this is headed northeast towards Sodus, you should get inside and away from windows in case we do see some flying debris from these storms. Also, another tornado warning. We've been tracking this one south of Canandaigua, getting ready, probably crossing Canandaigua Lake as we speak. Lots of lightning. This one is in effect until 3 o'clock, so we have another half hour on this one. Still producing plenty of lightning, torrential rain. And again, this is another one of those tornado warnings that has been radar indicated, meaning the radar is picking up on strong enough rotation. We have not seen of this storm yet. Doesn't mean it is not possible. And then another tornado warning just south of that one. So they're kind of lining up here with the atmosphere very primed. Cohocton, you are under this tornado warning right now, right along 390. And this is also headed towards Naples. So this might be one of those warnings that continues to get extended further east. I would not discount Keuka Lake, Penn Jerusalem, maybe in the path of this storm next. So right now we have 3 tornado warned storms. We have 1 in Wayne County, 1 in Ontario County, and 1 in northern Steuben County. And in fact, another one just south of that into PA. So you can clearly see the atmosphere has been very primed for these thunderstorms. Yeah, further west as well, extreme, what is that, Chautauqua County there, Jamestown area included in that next tornado warning. So obviously a very, very busy afternoon, especially for Western New York standards. Going to loop some of these, show you, I mean, there's tons of lightning. So regardless of whether or not there's a tornado, regardless of whether or not you are seeing straight line wind damage, any sort of wind damage, these storms mean business. They are dumping rain and plenty of lightning. So this is turning into a dangerous afternoon. We're going to stick with you on air until the danger has left us, but we're going to toss it over to First Alert meteorologist Rich Keneally again. Rich, you're looking at exactly what I'm looking at, and I just mentioned it. This is not something that we typically see here in Western New York.
Yeah, Stace, why don't you back up the radar? Why don't we take that broad picture for a little bit? And you can see a lot of times, we have severe weather. It's boom, it hits and then it's gone and then things clear up and we're done. This is going to linger. Now, we're going to have to watch this atmosphere, the way it's set up, really the rest of the afternoon into the early evening, and we're starting to see the signs of that. We have the active warnings now over our region, north and south, just east of 390. Then there's a little bit of a break in the atmosphere. There's so much energy in the atmosphere that it just takes a little bit of a break. Little bit of sun, everything recharges, reloads once again, and we're seeing additional storms. Look at that. They're just starting to pop. There's another one. Look at that. Just an explosive development. The rain becoming incredibly heavy again over southeastern parts of Genesee County, over near Pavilion, headed up towards Leroy. That's going to be another big rainmaker, and we're going to have to watch that closely because as we've seen with this warning that suddenly came out of almost nowhere for this tornado into western parts of Wayne County, any storm that gets going through the afternoon has the capability of that explosive development. It starts that spin, the rotation, and these tornadoes can spin up. Again, just look at that, just west of Victor right there. I mean, that's something to keep an eye on. I mean, there's another one of these radar indicated potential of the swirl in the atmosphere. And again, this is just, these things just keep popping up. There's the one that's along 104. We'll take a close look at that right now. Stacey's highlighting because this is a new one. Again, no active warning with that, but just looking at the radar. Again, we're just going through it. We're doing this live with you guys at home. So we're just reacting to what is happening in the atmosphere. And you can see, again, if you're at Victor, keep an eye on this. I mean, this is really blowing up over you guys. So that's going to be crossing 96 towards the thruway into Victor in the next few minutes through 235 and then off to Farmington, Palmyra, Newark, Arcadia. So again, it's just one after another. And as we see these storms additionally developing further to the west of our region, they all will have that possibility of producing severe weather and those isolated tornadoes. We're showing there's that one flaring up now down near Pavilion. Stuff starting to fire up now near and south of Warsaw. Any of these storms could again develop in short order and turn into severe weather. And as we just showed you, even back near Jamestown, this is where it all started several hours ago. That storm that brought that tornado warning to Genesee County, it started just north of Jamestown earlier this morning, and now we're seeing another tornado warning in southern Chautauqua County. So again, all of these storms which keep bubbling up and will, for the remainder of the afternoon, will have the capability of turning severe and perhaps producing these isolated tornadoes. So again, we got multiple warnings up right now. For this one, there it is. You see the bright green and the red. Again, it's that indication on the radar of that potential motion in the atmosphere. Right along 104, we've been tracking this as it went from Webster towards Ontario. It's now moving down 104, just south of 104, making its way towards Soda. So again, that is an area of concern. Rotation detected on the radar. There is that potential that there could be a tornado with that storm. So again, that is something we're watching. We're tracking it right now as it goes off towards Sodus by 241. So again, in the next 10, 15 minutes, down 104 from again, just east of, so that's right over Williamson now, making its way towards Sodus. So again, that's an area we're watching very, very closely. So again, that's near, what is that? Marion East Williamson Road and East Town Line Road. So just on the east side of Williamson, again, making its way towards Sodus. That's an area we are monitoring again for that potential rotation. Again, let's go back to that one out towards Victor, and you can see another area we're tracking. And right now does not have a warning with it, but that is certainly a signature that would indicate, again, potential rotation. And that is moving right over Victor. I mean, heavily populated area, right in the core of the downtown area of Victor. There's the thruway. There's 96, so just south of the thruway. You get down towards 250, 196, and 490, all that big interchange, all that development out there. Very powerful storm moving through that area right now into Victor in the next couple of minutes. Macedon 249, Palmyra at 253. Stacy?
Yeah, Rich, you mentioned some of that development off to the west, once again, south of Buffalo, near Jamestown, Chautauqua County, once again. That's kind of where this day all began. And I believe we have some footage, we have some photos of that tornado-warned storm. And is this what I saw from where? So this is Chautauqua. This is Chautauqua area. And obviously some big time damage there. There was a tornado warned storm that went through that area, and that obviously was likely a result from the tornado. That is ground proof, quite literally. Power poles snapped in half, and that signature on that particular storm was impressive. Yeah, the Weather Service will go out, they'll measure, they'll survey the damage, and basically what they're going to do is look at the path of the damage, how all of this is strewn about, and then it's fairly obvious this was a tornado, but they'll be able...
Newly issued tornado warning with that cell near Victor.
New tornado warning just popped. If we can come back to Max 1, brand new tornado warning just popped. This one right here.
There it is.
Yep. You're seeing that hook echo showing up once again. This is really incredible for our area. We get isolated tornado warnings every now and then, but we have a solid line right now of tornado warned storms from Lake Ontario essentially down to the PA border. But I want to put a track on this newest tornado warned storm, and they're all generally moving at the same speed, which is about, Alex, are they still about 40 miles an hour? That's what it has been looking like. About 35 to 40. So let's put a track on this. Victor, it's knocking on your door right now. About 5 minutes from now, 242, Macedon 254, Palmyra 258, Newark 307, Sodus 319, and Rose 326, Huron 330. So again, this is our newest tornado warning. This is for this particular cell that right now is just clearing Mendon, 96, right along the thruway there. Victor, heads up. You obviously are in that tornado warning. And even if you're not in that tornado warning, you're dealing with lightning, very heavy rain, severe thunderstorm warnings. This does also extend into Parrington, Turk Hill, Aralt Road, Aldrich Road. You are also under that tornado warning as this particular cell moves north and east. Now, I think you'll probably be skipped off to the south with this warning, with this particular storm, but it is still advisable to stay away from windows. Let's switch over to that velocity again and check out what this particular cell is looking like with velocity. And it's a pretty good signature right there, where the greens and the reds are meeting just east of Victor. Again, this is heading off to the north and east. And just out of curiosity, I'm going to put on correlation coefficient, see if we're getting any debris lofted within any of these storms here. And this is not a guarantee that you're seeing a tornado or debris being lofted, but a lot of times when you're seeing, they're literally non-uniform particles. So this particular part of the radar should be looking at rain. If it's seeing something that is non-meteorological, debris, leaves, wood being lofted into the air, then it would show something with a different color. So perhaps just off to the east of Victor, that is something to continue to monitor. And then also this cell that has been moving through western parts of Wayne County, that is a tornado warned storm, and we are seeing some brighter colors there. So that could be an indication of this tornado actually producing, or this tornado warning actually producing a tornado. But again, at this point, at least at this point, everything we are seeing has been radar indicated and not necessarily something that has been confirmed, other than the one that was south of Buffalo. So again, if you're just tuning in, I'm going to try to clean this up a little bit. There's a lot going on this screen right now, a lot of watches and warnings. But again, the biggest issue right now, tornado warnings, and it's basically a solid line of them. We have this one cell that is right along the Lake Ontario shoreline, Lake Road. This is that one I was just showing you on correlation coefficient. So head indoors, head to your basement, stay away from windows. This could be producing some damaging winds, whether they are straight line or from a tornado. We have another tornado warning that is for this particular cell just south of Perrington. Macedon, heads up. Victor, you are just off to the south of this, but still in that tornado warning. That is tornado warning number 2. Watching this next one, and we've been actually tracking this one from southern Livingston County. It has now made its way across Canandaigua Lake. You can see Route 20 there, just south of Hopewell, Gorham, Seneca, heads up, Geneva. This is headed in your direction as well. And then another, it's hard to tell if I don't believe Naples is technically in that tornado warning, but you have a tornado warned storm just off to the south of you. So bottom line, we just see a solid line of tornado warned storms from Lake Ontario to the New York PA border, a few more cells developing off to the west. So as Rich mentioned earlier, off to the west of us, we may continue to see some further development throughout the course of the afternoon. We have crews that are out on the roads right now. They are tracking down some of the storm damage. Glenn has been on the thruway, and we're just going to continue to bring you any updates as we get them. We just had a new severe thunderstorm warning that was extended into Penn Yan. So what the Weather Service is probably seeing here is this particular storm near Naples not showing much rotation, or at least not enough to produce a tornado warning, but that storm has been extended into the Penn Yan area. So again, we're just continuing to monitor this development as these storms continue to move on to the east. Rich?
Yeah, just remarkable. You know, I've been doing this 25 years here in Rochester, and I don't ever remember seeing a map like this. Again, we've had occasional, thunderstorms producing, again, an isolated tornado here or there. But to see this kind of activity all at the same time is just hard to believe for our part of the world. And again, it all goes back to what I was talking about. If you've been watching for a while here, the remnants of Hurricane Beryl, so much moisture, so much energy traveling up from the tropics, making its way into the Ohio Valley and now into Western New York. You throw all of that mix in with the heat of a strong sun this time of the year, all that humidity, all that moisture, the wind changing in direction with height. The setup was there. It was there. We've been talking about this for a couple of days. The setup was there for the potential to develop tornadoes. It's just, we're just not used to seeing it all come together in such a dramatic fashion as it is this afternoon. And unfortunately, we're seeing multiple tornado warnings at the same time. My gosh, here's that storm again approaching Sodus, has a tornado warning. Here's the one that just went through Victor, now over southeastern Monroe, moving into southwestern parts of Wayne County. That's a tornado warning. A tornado warning on this storm as it crosses Canandaigua Lake, headed towards Gorham, headed towards Geneva. And of course, we had that tornado warning earlier down towards or just south of Naples, and that's now weakened some, but there's still a severe thunderstorm warning now up, headed towards Keuka Lake. And then south of there, you got more tornado warnings into Bath and Campbell, just west of Corning, all the way down to the Pennsylvania border. So just a remarkable line of storms moving through our region. And then we catch that little break, and then we're going to have to watch all of these storms to our west as they will try to, again, fire up and develop in this very unstable, humid air mass. And there's still all that upper level wind is supporting the twist to these storms that produces the tornadoes. So we may see yet more issues develop again later this afternoon into the early afternoon. So again, let's recap and show you what's happening off towards our east. Again, this storm here, a nasty storm, just moved down down 104. It's moving towards Sodas at this time. Tremendous lightning, incredible rates of rain. And again, that has been a tornado warning. Looks like it's been just let to expire, the warning with that storm out towards Sodas. So we'll have to go take a look at the velocity to see if we're still seeing the rotation with that storm headed towards Sodas Bay. And it's still there, maybe not quite as impressive as it was a little bit ago, but there's still different motions, different directions in the atmosphere. So there's still a general, twirly, whirly nature to that storm headed right over Sodas Bay. So again, you just have to keep an eye out for these. Even if it's not actually warned with a tornado, doesn't mean it cannot happen. So again, we're going to have to always be alert for that as we head on through the rest of this afternoon. There's that one we just saw develop recently, just near north of Victor's, now pushing off to the east, just north of the Thruway, Farmington, up into Macedon right now, over towards Parenton, Fairport, Egypt, those areas getting some very, very heavy rain, tremendous lightning out there, and those storms continue to move off to the east, northeast, and that signature there still looks very, very healthy. You can see there's still the green and the red not that far apart. So we have tornado warnings, severe thunderstorm warnings up through much of the region. So again, anywhere east of Rochester, still be very weather aware. We're starting to see things settle down a little bit to the west. But they're going to refire again later this afternoon. There was that quick, if we can go back, that was still showing, some general rotation, even in that storm, just west of Penyan, just crossing into Yates County, or this one near Gorham, I should say, just west of Geneva. I'm starting to lose track. There's so many of these out there. But you can see headed towards Seneca, there's still some indication, nothing that's earth-shattering showing up on the radar, but there's still a general idea that there is some rotation in the storm, and of course a tornado could spin up, and that's moving now towards the northern end of Seneca Lake. So again, we got plenty of action out there towards Seneca at 251, Geneva at 259. Again, a definite severe storm, possible tornado right now in that area, just south of 20 over Gorham, headed towards Seneca and Geneva. You guys in Yates County, you got that severe thunderstorm warning now. The tornado warning has not been extended at this time over that area. And you can see, the radar is not quite as impressive from that storm, but there's still a lot of heavy weather that'll be moving towards Keuka Lake with that severe thunderstorm warning through 3:30. That's up for you guys in Yates County. So again, we still have a lot of weather to keep an eye on. And it's time to toss it over to Alex, who's going to give us an update now. Alex?
Yeah, it's a lot going on, Rich. And, we've been on air since about just after 12:30, since about 1 o'clock this afternoon. Obviously, we're going to continue to stay on air until these tornado warnings expire or they move out of the viewing area. And obviously, as we recap once again, for those maybe just joining, you can see as to why we are on the air right now. Just looking at First Alert Doppler radar, you can see we've got a lot of activity on radar, especially now to the east of Rochester at this moment. Obviously, you can see too, loads of lightning associated with these storms. But as I take lightning off, you can just see that all these thunderstorms out there have those hook looks to it, or those supercell looks. And that's why they're one, tornado warned, and then two, we're seeing some rotation within each and every one of those warnings. So let's get a look at velocity and just go down the list from north to south. So the first one was just expired out towards Wayne County. It's over towards Sodas at this moment. You can see the velocity signature is relatively weak. So what are you looking at? Well, you're looking at colors, green and red. And red means it's receding from the radar, while green means going towards the radar. Now, the radar that we're looking at is coming from the Montague area, or just to the south of Watertown. So you can see a little bit of some broad rotation within this, but with that green going towards the radar, you can see that there still is a little bit of rotation. You can see the red receding from the radar a little bit there. Again, no warning with this, but we're still watching out for some rotation within that. We move off towards the south. The warnings that are still in place, this is just to the north and east of Victor, now north of the Thruway, out towards Macedon, and just to the northwest of Manchester. You can still see broad rotation. Now, what we really want to see, if you wanted to see more tighter rotation for a tornado, is more of those greens and reds tighter together and a little stronger as well. But you can still see it is a tornado warned cell. This tornado warning goes until 3:15. This does include The sliver, the eastern end of Monroe County, that is beginning to exit Monroe County, though more or less mainly for the Ontario and Wayne County area at this moment. So you can see where that rotation is right now. You can see green going towards, this is coming from the Buffalo radar, and then you can see the red receding. So that brings that rotation component into this thunderstorm. So that's the second one that we're keeping our eyes on. We also have other ones that we're keeping our eyes on off towards the south. You can see over towards the Gorham area. This is the one that we've really been watching over the last, I mean, it's been a long time since we're just watching this single cell itself, let alone some of the other thunderstorms. But you can see we have another tornado warning that's still in place for parts of Ontario County. You can see also too where that is coming from. The radar in which this radar velocity is coming from is the Binghamton area. So we're in a mosh pit of radars, which is good to see because you want to see more data, more eyes on it. But you can see red receding and then green going towards. So that brings that rotation component along with it. But I think another thing to talk about too is the heavy rain associated with this. Again, as we've been talking about over the last several days, over the last couple of hours, and over the last several mornings, this is the remnants of Beryl. So what we have in place across the area is this tropical atmosphere with a lot of moisture associated with it. That's why we have this severe weather that is in place across the area. And that's why we have that opportunity for some locally heavy rain. So as Stacy did a little while ago, I'm going to take off the watches and the warnings just to show some of the rainfall rates that are out there. We're looking at some real impressive rainfall rates. Look at this one. So picking up over 3 inches per hour. Now, these thunderstorms obviously aren't going to sit over the same areas for an hour or two, as they are quickly moving their way off towards the north and east at around 40 miles an hour. But with this rain, as it pushes its way by, it's going to lead to some localized street flooding and even the opportunity, especially some of these areas that continue to see numerous thunderstorms push their way through over and over again. There'll be that opportunity for some flooding. So with that said, let me track some of these as well, the ones that are associated with some of these warnings. So as they move their way off towards the north and east, we could track these, and you can see this one out towards Victor. This is going to move towards the north and east. And as I just talked about, some of those same areas that just got hit with a thunderstorm 20 minutes ago, we're going to see another torrential downpour and the opportunity for some straight line winds, as well as that opportunity for that localized isolated tornado risk. We can see Marion around 256, Newark 303, Sodus at 309 this afternoon, Rose at 321, and then Wolcott at 327. So I'm going to send it back over to Stacy, take a little bit more of a look at some of these storms and how they're going to track as well. But you can see, Stacy, I mean, this is some very impressive stuff for this part of the area, that's for sure.
Yeah, we're actually going to send it over to First Alert Meteorologist Glenn Johnson. He is in the Storm Patrol, and he has been really tracking these as they are heading off to the east. So we're just going to send it off to Glenn. Glenn, where are you and what are you seeing where you are right now?
Hey there, Stacy. We're in Ontario County. So we're actually on one of those country roads that you know all too well, just south of Clifton Springs. We just passed Hopewell, and Manchester is behind us. So we're working our way to the east. So I want to show you the camera looking straight ahead here. We just ran into that cell that came in near the Canandaigua area. So we are in the warned area for the tornado on this particular cell. The rain is coming down torrentially. There's no doubt about that. We have not seen any wind damage per se, but even if you're going to get to see a tornado, it's going to be very difficult to see because it's got to be rain wrapped, as we say. And when there's so much rainfall in these cells, I mean, this is tropical drenching. It reduces the visibility. So it's very difficult to see where there may be some circulation on the base of one of these clouds. We continue to drive to the east here to see if we can find any particular damage. Fortunately, I think a lot of folks are heeding the warnings. They're not out on the roadways. You don't see many folks that are outside. And I think everybody's just kind of hunkering down, waiting for these particular storms to blow on through. We're going to continue to watch this, and we're going to continue to move east, at least for now. I think eventually we're going to turn and start to move back to the north into Wayne County as these cells are moving along at a pretty good clip. And as you might expect, it's just difficult to keep up with exactly where they're located and exactly where they're heading. I've been using radar here. I've been using our weather app, the News 10 NBC weather app, to kind of get a gauge of where the warnings are located, where the cell is located right now, and then kind of estimate where the cell is moving to. And, at this point, I don't see much in the way of flooding out this way, but I think we've been very fortunate that we have not had a lot of rain lately. So a lot of the area creeks and streams have room to kind of soak up a lot of this rainfall. So, outside I'm ponding on roadways, that has really been the extent of it. We are getting some thunder and lightning. I could hear the thunder and lightning as we're driving along here. But at this point, I have not seen any damage. Now, we're going to wait to see if we get any of these damage reports coming in. We want to remind the folks at home that if you have damage, and obviously you don't want to put yourself at risk, but certainly we appreciate if you go out and get a picture of any of the possible damage that you may have, any of the flooding that you may have. You can send it to any of our meteorologists at WHEC.com, and we'll be sure to get it out on social media. So that's something that we're going to keep track of because, when it comes down to it, we want verification in terms of the severity of this weather. At the same time, keeping ourselves safe as we're traveling around. I think we're just passing now area creek and stream, and I just want to take a quick look here. Now, it's certainly within its banks. So, these cells are dumping a lot of rain, but it's over a very short amount of time. And unless you get a repetitive nature of these thunderstorm cells, we call it training, where you get one cell passing over the same area and then another cell coming through and another one and another one. That's where you start to get some of that intense flooding that can take place. And I think we've been fortunate, at least so far, we have not seen a lot of that training that goes into some of these storm cells. So from my perspective, out in the field, it seems to me that the biggest threat is obviously going to be strong downburst type of winds or anything in the way of any tornadic winds. So I guess at that point, I'll leave it at that. We're going to continue now to start moving to the north, and we will update you in terms of what we find. This is Glenn Johnson on the First Alert Storm Patrol, guys.
Yeah, and as Glenn was just talking about, he hasn't really been seeing much in the way of damage, and that's a really good thing. We do have a little bit of damage reports coming out of the Brighton area, Monroe County, at least as far as RG&E goes, seeing about 1,500 customers without power. But when you look at radar and what we have been dealing with this afternoon, it is shocking, in my opinion, that we have only seen 1,500 customers without power. And we just had a new tornado warning issued. This is the same tornado warning that was near Gorham, which, by the way, just about 10 minutes ago looked like a really impressive signature. So while I'm saying we haven't seen impressive power outages or damage reports yet, this event is still ongoing. So you need to take these storms very seriously. There's a reason they are tornado warned. And this did just get extended by the Weather Service. This is a tornado warning that now extends past Geneva. But the heart of this storm right now is between Seneca and Geneva. And this is where the strongest part of that rotation has been seen over the last probably hour or so as it's been moving north and east. But this is tracking towards Geneva, Waterloo up next, then Seneca Falls. And again, this is a tornado warned storm. But again, this is not the only one. We continue to watch this tornado warning. This is a tornado warned storm near Walworth, Macedon. You are in the clear of this particular storm at this point, moving into Walworth and Marion, and then on toward Williamston and Sodus, which, by the way, already saw a tornado warned storm move on through. So there's that warning there. This warning I just talked about moving into Geneva, and we are still tracking some warnings further south. This particular cell, I believe this is just and I don't want to say just, but a severe thunderstorm warning for western parts of Yates County there, Jerusalem and Penn Yan. That is headed in your direction. And then we're continuing to watch on the southern end of this into extreme southern parts of New York State, the southern tier, Bath under a tornado warning, Campbell headed your way as well. So again, this is very, very impressive, stretching into northern parts of PA. These are all tornado warnings that you are seeing here in these red polygons. And as I mentioned, it is shocking that we're not seeing more power outages or damage reports yet. That's a very good thing. It means that most of you have not had property damage, but it is something that we will continue to monitor. And we're watching another line of storms moving in. So the Weather Service has just updated, kind of cleaned up some of these warnings a little bit. We still have that tornado warning up for the cell that is just south of Ontario. Newark heads up, that's headed in your direction. SOTUS as well. We do still have the tornado warning that is up for Geneva. That is headed towards Seneca Falls. And severe thunderstorm warning for this cell in western Yates County, headed toward Penn Yan, and still a tornado warned storm just south of Bath. So real quick, I'm going to actually turn on velocity once again so we can see how strong the rotation is within some of these storms. And I would actually say this particular cell, which is a severe thunderstorm warning near Huron and Wolcott, showing a little bit of rotation there. We'll see if that tightens up and we get another tornado warning out of that cell. And this tornado warned storm, not really seeing tight rotation, but certainly some rotation just south of Ontario, kind of between Ontario and Walworth. And checking on this cell near Geneva, again, we're looking at, I would say, maybe tightening up rotation near Geneva right now, or at least heading into Geneva. So these are all storms that we need to continue to monitor. We will continue to do exactly that throughout the course of the afternoon. And then I want to just head back into this cell. This is non-severe, at least for the time being, but we have another storm that is popping and growing between Ogden and Chili, headed toward Gates, the north side of Rochester, headed towards the city, literally as we speak. So we'll continue to monitor this particular storm to see if that wants to strengthen over the next 15 to 30 minutes. We're going to send it back over to First Alert meteorologist Glenn Johnson, who is still obviously out on the roads and tracking where all of these storms are headed. Glenn? No?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Stacy? I'm not sure if we're on the air or not, but we just drove through this one thunderstorm cell that is very close to the Geneva area, and we could see the intense rainfall coming down. Let me show you a different shot here. And it's just amazing where at times it looks like it's completely clear, and at times we get one of these intense rainfalls that comes on through. And this is the cell that we've been chasing, the tornado 1 cell that is just north of Geneva right now. And I think it's moving to the northeast pretty quickly. So I think we just passed it, and it is going to be heading up north towards the Thruway and then extending into portions of Wayne County here as we go through time. So, you know, it's amazing that I've never seen this before, where these cells come down with intense rainfall. It lasts for sometimes less than a minute. It's the kind of stuff that you'll see down in Florida, where you drive through the highway, you drive down the highway, and you can see the wall, you can see the curtain of intense rainfall, and then you just as quickly drive out of it. And that's what just happened. We just drove through. It lasted all of 10 or 15 seconds, and then it moved out. Now, we have been seeing a couple of tree branches down in some areas, but I want to stress we have not had any real significant damage, at least in the areas that we've been looking at. And that's a good thing. That's obviously a very good thing. And we hope, I mean, at this point, I don't want to see any damage if we can help it. But we do want to be able to keep track of these intense thunderstorm cells as they move through our viewing area. So at this point, I think we're going to take it north here, Stacy. We're going to be heading into Wayne County. We'll see if we get back on the New York State Thruway again. Obviously, if you get any kind of damage reports, let us know, and we'll try to track them down. But again, this is Glenn Johnson with the First Alert Storm Patrol.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. And speaking of those storm reports, We have National Grid, about 5,000 customers in Livingston County without power. That's National Grid. And then Monroe County in the Brighton area seeing about 1,500 customers without power. Those are RG&E customers. And I want to take you to some storm reports because this is really the best way we can tell, along with power outages, whether or not these storms have actually been producing damage. And we do have a few reports coming in, specifically Canandaigua. I know you've been hit so hard this summer. And here's another one. So this is just in, power lines down in Canandaigua. So that's the extent of the report coming out of Canandaigua, but some power lines down. So likely seeing some power outages in that area. But again, you're looking at the same map that I am, and we've been seeing impressive radar signatures. We've been seeing warning after warning, and this is what we have to show for it, which is a very, very good thing. I do want to turn back to radar because we do still have active tornado warnings as we speak. So let's go down the line, as Alex said, and Alex did earlier. This is a severe thunderstorm warning that is just north of Wolcott, but there is plenty of lightning and torrential rain coming down within that cell. Could see some wind gusts in there that could be potentially producing some damage. This particular cell is still tornado warned. It is moving just north of Newark right now. It looks like it is trying to weaken a little bit, so that is some good news, but it is still a tornado warned storm. And beyond the tornado warning part of it, still a severe thunderstorm warning. And obviously still tracking this cell that Glenn was just talking about and showing us that is near Geneva. This is still a tornado warning just north of Geneva, heads up in Waterloo, Seneca Falls. This is headed in your direction right along the thruway there. Tons of lightning. Again, we're looking at torrential rain, but as Glenn was mentioning, at least where he's been, he hasn't seen much in the way of damage, and he hasn't seen much in the way of flooding, which is both remarkable and a very, very good thing. Now, further west, we do not have anything warned within this particular line of storms. The atmosphere has been worked over a little bit with the storms that have been working through, so these may not pack as much of a punch, but we still have an atmosphere that is primed. There's still shear, there's still spin, and there's still some instability. So we'll continue to monitor what is happening off to the west of Rochester to see if these storms want to develop any further. But again, for the time being, we are still tracking a few tornado warnings in our viewing area. North of Newark, a tornado warned storm there that is headed towards Sodus, Wolcott, and Rose. And then another tornado warned storm. This is the most impressive one right now. Could be producing some damage in the Geneva area, Route 96 there and 14, and just right along the thruway. So those are some areas that we're watching. And I'm actually going to hand it over to Rich for a second. But Rich, what I'm going to switch it over to is I'm going to start looking at some of the rainfall totals that we've seen, because that's another aspect of this that we haven't really talked much about because we've had such severe weather. So I'm going to keep it on radar for a second and then switch it over to some of the radar amounts for you.
Yeah, and it is interesting, you're saying there's just not a lot of damage reports coming in, and we just have seen Glenn drive from the city down 390, then across much of Ontario County, and he has not seen a lot of damage either. So maybe, just maybe, we're just dealing with a lot of very tremendous storms that aren't really packing a huge punch in terms of widespread issues. We were talking about that earlier. A lot of times we highlight, that threat of a tornado because that makes all the headlines, but tornadoes, they're so rare, so isolated that typically of more concern would be flash flooding. Or strong winds from storms, because that can impact a large part of the population. And here's one of them. Again, this is radar estimated. So it's an estimate from the radar. It's not an actual observation from a human, but, just near north of 104 there in Ontario, north side of Ontario, Williamson up by the lake, it's showing 4.5 inches. I mean, that's some very, very impressive number. But just a few miles down the road, just 1.9 inches, still very very hefty amount of rain. We're not looking at anything that is just overwhelming at this point. Some of the amounts coming in from the west side, and I'll tell you, I live out in Gates, and it's been exceedingly dry. Even with some of the storms over the last few weeks, it's kind of skipped over a lot of neighborhoods on the west side. So a couple of inches out there. I'm sure the ground just sucking that right up down towards Henrietta, Chili, an inch and a half, 2 inches. Just near the Riga area, we were tracking some heavy weather out there a couple of hours ago. Again, maybe some spotty amounts close to 3 inches. So again, I'm sure the creek's filling right up, but hopefully just staying in their banks right now. And you can see the spotty nature of the rainfall further off to the south. But again, we're going to watch because we're not done. We're not done with this yet. Normally, you get the big round of storms, they come through, and then the weather really quiets down. This next little round doesn't look as severe at this time, but again, we're going to have to watch it and monitor it very, very closely because the atmosphere still has a lot of energy stored up and has the potential to kick out, again, very heavy rain once again, with the potential for severe weather, maybe an isolated tornado, some wind damage as well. So that'll still be a threat into the afternoon. This whole system, it's still got a few more hours to go. So we're going to have to watch out for that before it all sweeps on through. And we're still dealing with some active tornado warnings. Again, east of Rochester, you can still see tremendous lightning, very heavy downpours now moving through parts of Wayne County. It looks like this warning should be set to expire at 3:15. That's about 4 minutes from now. And I think that one will expire. It doesn't look like it should continue. This storm, a very hefty storm again, near and north of Geneva, that's headed down the thruway towards Waterloo and Seneca Falls. We also got this very, very heavy storm, and looks like a brand new tornado warning again just near the lake shore.